Lucas and Cameron discussed how during the... Oh, yeah. Lucas and Cameron discussed how during the Vietnam War, America became the empire. The irony is that in both of those, the little guys won. The highly technical empire, the English empire, the American empire, lost. That was the whole point, Lucas said. Yeah, just like George Lucas, this like fat beard weirdo of a guy, like squatting in a chair, hands out, explaining how you know, his incredibly influential media franchise is rooted in like you know, the North Korean Judaism, and like, ah, yes, well, of course, obviously I based my understanding of the Jedi and the Force in Marxist Leninist Maoism, which yeah, having a grand old time. Comrade Skywalker. I thought the Empire was supposed to represent the Nazis. Ah, but that's the thing, because America is Nazis. Uh-huh.
And they use something they call pyroprocessing. The interesting thing is they call it pyroprocessing, but it's a molten salt process. They're dissolving this thing in a molten salt, and they're doing electrochemistry on it. Why don't they call it molten salt? They want...
Oh my God, that's funny. Lucas even said in 2005 that Star Wars was really about the Vietnam War, and that was the period where Richard Nixon was trying to run for a second term, which got me thinking historically about how do democracies turn into dictatorships, because the democracies aren't overthrown, they're given away. God damn. Whoa, Benjamin! Oh God, we're definitely reading donos today.
To me, and I'm interested in.
You did something very interesting with Star Wars, if you think about it. The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man.
So to give you a perspective on how based Lucas has to be to say this, he was alive during the Vietnam War. He was alive during a period where America was committed to, like, continual warfare against an opposition, and then sided with the opposition in the gigantic media franchise that he went with. Like, he lived through that time when there were nonstop news stories about dead GIs and the horrors of the jungle and stuff, and he was like, you know what I'm going to do? It's going to be a space story. The Viet Cong are going to be the good guys. Yeah, he was a film student during the Vietnam War. I mean, he was a Vietnam War protester, one of the most influential ever. Maybe the most influential ever. So just, if ever you get upset about the Sound of Freedom stuff, like, oh God, you know, it took them 5 years to get it made, and it made 40 million, and it's a QAnon movie, just remember, okay? We've been winning this field, like, for all time. I think we just we need to do a better job of committing to the bit, you know? Get people introduced to progressive themes, and then help them understand. So I'm glad for this interview.
Kind of thing nested deep inside of a fantasy.
Or a colonial, you know, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
And we're just a bunch of hayseeds in coonskin hats that don't know nothing.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with the Vietnamese.
Yep.
The irony of that one is...
Lucas really said death to America, KKK, and colonialism.
In both of those, the little guys won.
Right.
And the big, highly technical empire...
The English Empire, right?
The English Empire, the American Empire, lost.
Yeah.
That was the whole point.
But that's a classic us not profiting from the lesson of history, because you look at the inception of this country, and it's a very noble fight of the underdog against the massive empire. You look at the situation now.
None of this makes up for Jar Jar Binks. Yeah, well, obviously the studio execs were like, Lucas, you've been too based. We need to compensate for this by giving a yes massa voice to a floppy rabbit man who will follow your characters around for 3 movies. You've been too based, and we need to reel you in. You've watched the prequels, right? The way they cover the fall of the Republic is really great. Yeah, okay, I want to be clear. The prequels are shit. I'm not H-Bomber guy. I'm not that much of a contrarian. However, I will acknowledge that even if it's presented poorly, the way the Republic fell is not only, like, true to life in terms of, like, how things like that typically happen. I do think it's kind of cool how this big, super influential, like, science fantasy media empire, like, basically dedicated 30% of combined 3 movies towards like senatorial politics and the downfall of democracy in the way it would actually happen in real life. You know? I don't know. There's something there. Come on now, you at least like episode 3, right? No. They're not good. But I respect the effort. Gundam is supposed to have really good anti-imperialist messaging, but I haven't seen it. But I've heard that from a lot of people, yeah. You woke up the prequel warriors, yeah. It's all over the world, too. You could say the same thing about anime and manga. If you take a look at the most influential anime and manga in history, like what's had the strongest effect, you will see left-leaning people and left-leaning themes and left-leaning messaging and left-leaning stories all about the place. Yeah, One Piece being a pretty obvious example. Yeah. If you're a leftist and don't love Andor, you're not a leftist. If you're a Star Wars fan and don't realize the original and prequel trilogies are pro-leftist, you're not a Star Wars fan. George Lucas is a pro-union socialist who gave away all his money to make experimental films for himself. Yeah, but the thing is, like, the overwhelming majority of Star Wars fans understand. I think that people are good at seeing good, but they're not good at seeing good politics. So the average person will see Princess Leia and the gang fight against the imperialist empire, or we'll see all the stuff going on in Andor, and they'll see it's good, but they won't see, oh, that's good, comma, and it's left-leaning. They're good at identifying good, but not good at identifying good politics. They're relying on moral intuition to guide them without ascribing them to the values they're associated with. Because it's scary from a media perspective to have characters doing good things, like fighting for the working class or for progressivism or inclusivity, and then to go, haha, that was a nice left-wing progressive moment, huh? You know? Because that, like, kind of brings the air up, or it brings it down a little bit, because then it feels a little preachy to some people, and maybe some people now feel like, like it's too over the top now, or it's getting, like, overly overt. It's a tough question. How do you thread that line? How do you bring people over? How do you show them good, but then help them learn that good isn't just an abstract, doing good deeds for the sake of it. It's a political project. Everyone, or at least almost everyone, thinks of it as good to give money to the homeless when walking by them. If you have spare money and they have nothing, to give them money, this is literally like Jesus Christ territory, right? Almost everyone, with the exception of some freaks and weirdos, will agree, oh, that was nice of you. But giving money to the homeless isn't just an interpersonal flourish. It's a political strategy. It's a thing that you can do on a policy level. So you need to take people's understanding that this is good and move it into, okay, so if that's good, then what is also good are political strategies that are rooted in it. And those strategies are left-wing, you know? I agree. I really need to watch Andor. Obi from Spider-Verse is a good method. I think that you would have to be genuinely brain damaged to watch Across the Spider-Verse and not understand that you're watching a left-leaning movie. That movie is so overt with it that I genuinely believe you would need to be willfully ignorant to not get that, you know? How good was it? I think it was excellent. It might end up being my favorite superhero movie ever. I would have to think on that. But it might be. Spider-Man 2 is still the GOAT. I liked it more than Spider-Man 2, but I guess I haven't seen Spider-Man 2 in a while. Still great, by the way.